Let's talk AEW. Coming up right after this. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the We Book It podcast. Now, I say we, as you only see one of me and not my usual four other esteemed co-hosts. Big shout out to Coach, to Fritos, to Tank, and to Big Daddy C. I spoke with the gentlemen before recording this and offered them the opportunity to come on and speak their piece as well. They all had to work or do other things and gave me the green light to go ahead and to record. Obviously I have a lot on my mind. I missed Sunday's show with having COVID. um However, uh I have some thoughts on Sunday's show. The fellas holding it down, shout out to them. They did awesome without me. I appreciate them. But I am Virgil. I am here to talk about AEW, All Elite Wrestling. It's been a big week for All Elite, in some good ways and in some bad ways. But I think it's definitely time to speak about some things that I feel like really haven't been spoken about enough, and um the problems that may be going on, or the things that might have been said, some stuff that riled some people up and made them really upset. Um so let's start right off the jump. Let's talk about CM Punk. Yes, that's right. CM Punk went on Ari Helwani's podcast slash show, the MMA Hour, and he had a lot to say about AEW, and it struck a lot of people crazy because everybody thought that CM Punk had signed the NDA where he could not talk about AEW, could not talk about Brawl Out, could not talk about his exit, could not talk about what happened with Jungle Boy, could not talk about anything like that. We were shocked to find out that he does have an NDA about Brawl Out, but his exit, everything that happened with Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, all of that stuff, he actually can speak about. And he did go into in-depth detail. And then he went into even more in-depth detail when talking about Tony Khan, which definitely stirred up, riled up a bunch of people. Now, listen, my initial reaction, my opinion to this interview was I thought Punk spoke from the heart. I thought that he had a lot of good things to say. I mean, even on Tony Khan, he said he was a nice guy. He's just not a boss. And I don't think anything that he said was offensive um about Tony Khan or about AEW. I think it was really the truth. I think he was speaking what from his experience, what he felt was the truth about AEW. Now, coincidentally, there's a lot of other people that feel that exact same way about Tony Khan's AEW, All Elite Wrestling. Now, for me, I want to speak from my perspective. My thoughts on All Elite Wrestling. I think All Elite Wrestling offers an alternative branding of wrestling. It does go away, kind of get out of the realm of sports entertainment, and it does more so favor pro wrestling. Now, that in itself has its pros and its cons. With having only specifically pro wrestling, you do lose some of the flavor of the vignettes, or some of the better promos, some of the better acting, some of the better silly segments that might find funny. Like, I don't think a guy like R-Truth would thrive in AEW, because it's supposed to be more serious, supposed to be more hand-to-hand combat, more sports oriented, less on the entertainment side, less funny vignettes, funny videos, funny segments. funny promos and things like that. It's meant to be more so we want to bring the realism back to sports. AEW was all about blood and guts, and I mean they even have a match named after it. So it was very, very, very interesting for me to when AEW came out, because when AEW came out, I myself admittedly was a diehard WWE fan. You know, I was tired of people complaining about WWE, complaining about Vince McMahon, but I was also at the same time very tired of the way Vince McMahon booked WWE. You know, looking back now, we're on the cusp of the hottest WrestleMania. I want to say this may be the hottest WrestleMania since The Rock and Stone Cold at WrestleMania 17. I think we can put that on the bill as this has got to be the hottest build up to a WrestleMania. But on the cups of that, AEW came at a time where people were sick and tired of the way Vince McMahon booked WWE. So you had this mass exodus of people that came and said, you know what? I'm supporting the other guy because I'm tired of the way Vince McMahon books. I'm tired of him shoving superstars down our throats. I'm tired of him really living the gimmick and believing that he knows what's best for us, the wrestling fan. I want to revolt against that, which I'm fine with. You have a voice as a wrestling fan. I have a voice as a wrestling fan. That's why I have a podcast. That's why I have a channel. That's why I talk about things like this, because it's what matters to me. Obviously, it matters to you. We spend a lot of money. Trust me. AEW or WWE, we all spend a lot of money, whether it's subscriptions or whether it's t-shirts and merch or whether it's, you know, doing the things that we love to do, going to live events, going to pay-per-views, whatever it is, we spend the money. We have the right to voice our opinions. But there was this mass exodus of people that said that AEW was supposed to be the alternative. It was supposed to be the difference. It was supposed to be what would change the face of wrestling. And off jump, I really believe that AEW did. I'll never forget the feeling of hopping on Twitter at the time. I know it's X now. Hopping on Twitter at the time and watching Jon Moxley's video where he talked about the paradigm shift, and then watching Jon Moxley come out on AEW. I mean, man, I'll never forget Cody Rhodes smashing the throne at the first All Out. I'll never forget all these things that played a part in the beginning of AEW. I'll never forget, there was a good month and a half period where every episode there was a superstar walking out in AEW and coming out, and just this massive, oh man, who's gonna be next? Who's gonna be next? It was very WCW-esque in the sense of that. My thoughts though was that AEW started to become a one-trick pony. And what I mean by that is AEW started to become this, if you don't have a special announcement or a special surprise, or if you don't have somebody that's defecting from WWE and coming to AEW, then, I mean, what is there? You had no meat, no stories that really hooked you and made you care. Cody Rhodes took himself out of the AEW world title picture very early on. He just wanted to be EVP. He was going to make the TNT title special. Cool. I get it. You know, you had MJF. MJF carried AEW on his back last year. 2023 can only be attributed to the success of Maxwell Jacob Friedman, because he carried AEW on his back. The ratings, the pay-per-views, everything was all about MJF. You fast forward to today and you talk about the state of AEW today, and all you can think about is what could have been. What could have been had they not messed things up with Punk, which will circle back around to his interview with Ariel Helwani here in a second. But my thoughts about AEW at its inception and AEW today is you just think that there's so much wasted opportunity, so much wasted TV time, so much opportunity, and so much chance for stars to be bigger than they really are, but they aren't, And I think a lot of what CM Punk addressed in this interview is having to deal with why those stars aren't as big as they should be. Your presentation, and like I said, you have a huge amount of talent in that locker room. Huge amount of talent in that locker room. But that talent in that locker room, they have all these ideas and all these things that they want to do. But is their mind really set on, I need to make money? I need to be the one to bring the gate. I need to be the one that fills the room. I need to be the one to make sure that those pay-per-views sell out, that every seat is filled in that arena. And I think about back to Punk's interview and I think back to what he said. These guys want to work once a week. And they want to come out, do their stuff, whatever their stuff is, whether it's blood and guts, whether it's putting through glass tables, whether it's through doing flippy moves, whether it's, all of this stuff. And I know I'm using trigger words. I know somebody in the comments is going to go off on me and say, dude, your opinion sucks. And that's fine. That's the beautiful part of this. I actually want to know what you think about my opinion. So please feel free to comment below and let me know if you think my opinions suck, if you disagree. It does not hurt my feelings. I got thick skin. I've been told I was wrong my whole life. My wife tells me every day I'm wrong. So, hey, if you disagree, okay, we can agree to disagree. But my thoughts go back to all these AEW riffs that CM Punk talked about that he had, obviously with Adam Page going off script about the Young Bucks, and their disdain for him because he got their friend Colt Cabana fired and whatnot, and Adam Page is upset and Young Bucks are upset, and then obviously he tries to help Jungle Boy and Jungle Boy doesn't want to be helped, and you just realize I liken what CM Punk went through in AEW. I'm going to use the basketball terminology. Stay with me. Hopefully some of you know basketball out there a little bit. But I'm going to use the basketball terminology. Remember when Kyrie Irving was playing with a young Jason Tatum and a young Jaylen Brown? And he got on social media and publicly apologized to LeBron James. He said he did not realize what he had. He did not realize how hard it is to lead young men who think they know it all. And honestly, you look at that AEW locker room, and I feel like there's a lot of young men in there with a lot of talent, but a lot of young men that think they know it all. They don't want to be told different. They don't want to be kept safe. They want to go out there. They want to put their bodies on the line. They want to do everything that they did back when they were, in somebody's backyard wrestling or in somebody's barnyard wrestling or in somebody's indie show wrestling in a gym with only 300 people. You got to realize, like, AEW has the opportunity to be a multi-million-dollar company. With them being a multi-million-dollar company, there comes a certain air of responsibility with that. You don't go over to the UK and do the pay-per-view numbers and sell over 80,000, 100,000 seats in an arena and fill that arena and pack that arena up with the largest gate in history, and then realize that I still want to stay in my backyard type wrestling. I want to stay in this era, in this realm of I want to do all of this stuff that seems real or that is real and really put my body and my life on the line. And Punk tried to help Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy didn't want to be helped. That's why I liken it to Kyrie Irving dealing with a young Jason Tatum, a young Jaylen Brown. Could be the same way. And he also addressed his return to WWE and how things went with that. If you have not watched the interview, I'm sure most wrestling fans have, especially ones that are tuned into this video. If you have not watched that, definitely give it a watch. It's very well put together, very well put together interview. Ariel Helwani did a very good job in interviewing Punk. Punk's interview, however, then turned around and spawned even more because he obviously was critical of the AEW locker room. He was critical of AEW's owner, chief executive officer, and all the other hats that Tony Khan wears. And so this spawned a return and a response from that man, Edge. Edge came out and opened up AEW this week. Great. Literally the person that you want opening up your show. I mean, like I said, it's very hard. I'm sorry. I shouldn't call him Edge, right? I should call him Adam Copeland. I should call him by his AEW name. Sorry, my apologies. Adam Copeland opened up AEW this week. And to my surprise, I love what he had to say. I loved everything about what he had to say because it's the truth in a sense of that locker room, in the sense of the characteristics of the people, and in the sense of so Edge came out and he opened up AEW Dynamite this week, and he had some very interesting comments of his own. He opened up with saying there's a lot of bullshit that was said this week online and other places. Obviously, everybody knew he was referring to the CM Punk interview on the MMA Hour. We know that Edge himself is probably considered that locker room leader now in AEW. So he had to come out and he had to let people know, like, hey, no, what you're hearing on the MMA Hour isn't what's total gospel or the Bible. It literally is probably just some, slander or conspiracy or what CM Punk went through. However, Edge said that he would put that AEW locker room up against any other locker room that he's ever been a part of. And their Edge is where their Adam Copeland is where we have to call bullshit on you. Because you've been in some of probably the most greatest locker rooms ever. Now, granted, when he said that, he could have been talking about harmony. He could have been talking about peacefulness. He could have been talking about guys just wanting guys to go out and have great matches and tear it up in the ring and have fun. I mean, there's pretty much the beginning of his promo was all about let's have fun. Wrestling is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be serious. It's not supposed to be tribal. Edge, what you got to realize is a lot of the tribalism that started in the wrestling business started because the WWE fans left WWE and moved to AEW. And they just immediately said, boom, AEW is better. Boom, AEW in a year or two is going to be better than WWE. Boom, AEW Dynamite is already better than Raw, and it might be better than SmackDown in a couple years. Boom, AEW is this, AEW is that. They crowned it the best product out there in year one. Now, I accredit that to recency bias, and I accredit that to people just being tired of the way Vince McMahon did things. But what I've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong, is these same fans that were tired of the way Vince McMahon booked are already tired of the way Tony Khan has booked AEW. They're tired of the announcements. They're tired of who's going to walk out this week. They're tired of the inconsistent stories. They're tired of, the people that they want pushed, Powerhouse Hobbs, guys like that. They want guys like that pushed. They want guys like that to be in the world title picture. They want Swerve to be the man in that company. And he is the best thing AEW has going for itself right now, is the Swerve Strickland stories. But often, a lot of times, AEW is a hard watch next these days. And like I said, it's because of the way the show is booked. The talent is there. Edge is absolutely right if he's talking about this talented roster. Tony Khan has assembled a talented roster, which today news came out. Tony Khan plans to spend even more money in the coming years on free agents to boost the talent in AEW. You got to if you want that TV deal, Tony. The problem is not just the fact that you have the talent in the locker room. Two things, and this leads me to my last point. What is holding AEW back? Two things are holding AEW back. First thing, number one, the mentality of some of the people in your locker room, that they just can't leave the backyard wrestling stuff alone. They can't move to more of a storyline based, feud based type of programming. No, they got to come out there. They got to do this crazy stuff, these crazy stunts that's going to end up getting somebody hurt or getting somebody killed. And then on top of that, they have to turn around and they have to, cut these promos that they think are badass, but really don't make any sense. They just say a bunch of cuss words and mention WWE 15 times and get a crowd reaction. There's no meat in it. Which brings me to my next point. Tony Khan. My thought process behind this is Tony Khan. Tony Khan is what is holding AEW back. Now, you don't have to like this. You don't have to agree with this. You may think Tony Khan is constantly Booker of the Year. You may think Tony Khan is the best thing in pro wrestling since Eric Bischoff, coincidentally. But in my eyes, Tony Khan being an owner, but also being chief executive officer, as well as being over all the creative and all of these things, is what's holding AEW back. Some jobs you need wrestling talent to do. You need wrestling guys that have done this before to do talent relations, to do, your creative, to help you with your booking. And I'm not saying Tony Khan don't have help, but at the end of the day, most things that show up on TV, if not all things, have to be approved by Tony Khan first. Unless he's just letting people go out there and go into business for himself. Which in that case, then, maybe what CM Punk said is true. He's not a boss. But everybody not going to like that. Not everybody's going to agree with the fact that you literally see these guys go out here and kill themselves and think that the fans are just supposed to appreciate this. In all honesty, within the last calendar year of 2024, let's just go 2024, January till now. It's April 4th as I record this. The effort that AEW has put forth outside of Christian Cage and Adam Copeland and Swerve Strickland and Samoa Joe has been subpar at best. I love what Toni Storm is doing as a talent. I love that she's recreated herself. I love that she's finding her success and herself and her gimmick in AEW and not in WWE. Because so much talent that is there is just revamping what they did in WWE and seeing if it works in the AEW just on a more rated R scale. No pun intended, Adam Copeland. But what I'm asking you is to really ask yourself, what is holding AEW back? And if you're honest with yourself, you will say a lot of it revolves around Tony Khan, which is literally all CM Punk was trying to say in that interview. That's all he was trying to say. Clearly, he, struck a chord because Edge had to come out and, say what he had to say. So, and like I said, I'm sure the AEW faithful, not only on this comment post, but all around social media, will have a lot to say about the MMA hour with Ari Helwani that CM Punk did. But what you can't deny, I don't think you can deny the fact that Tony sometimes has a hard time getting out of his own way. Spend the money. Be the guy to bring in the talent. But let the talent book the talent. He's not from the wrestling world. It would be like if WWE or AEW hired me. I've never wrestled a day in my life. I've been watching wrestling since 1998. But I've never wrestled an actual match a day in my life. But I can tell you that what the stunts that the some of the AEW wrestlers do is definitely unsafe. I can tell you that they're doing a lot more harm than good to themselves and to the business. Sure, it creates shock value. Sure, it creates something to talk about for a couple of minutes. But guys are risking their lives out there for something that, I mean, come on, man. Come on. This is supposed to be wrestling, professional wrestling. Tony Khan needs to do a better job of managing his roster. Tony Khan needs to do a better job of telling guys no. Tony Khan needs to do a better job of booking this amazing roster talent that he's assembled. He's already said that he is going to be very aggressive in 2024, bringing in new free agents, which is great, Tony. However, they still aren't going to matter at all if you don't know how to book them. If you don't know how to make people care about them, if you don't know how to make people click and watch your TV show weekly, give them a storyline, book a storyline that somebody actually cares about and wants to watch week in, week out. Not just the YouTube stuff, but the actual show. Get those ratings up over 1 million ratings, Tony. I mean, there's goals to this. There's levels to this. Like, book a compelling TV show from cover to cover. And honestly, I think in the WWE, book a compelling TV show. The Rock is supposed to be done once after WrestleMania. We won't see The Rock for a while. Probably won't see Roman either for a while. Now the work begins, Triple H. Now you need to keep people invested in Cody Rhodes. Keep people invested in WWE title. Keep people invested in what you book him with after that. What's next? Who's next? To coin a phrase from another old timer. But as far as AEW goes, I mean, like I said, I just want them. I want them to succeed. Wrestling is better. Hear me clear. Wrestling is better when you have two, damn near 3 companies that are really successful and writing compelling television that you could tune into. I'm from the era where, you know what I'm saying, you had WWF and WCW. I'm from the era where you had TNA was compelling. I'm from that era. I'm from that time in wrestling. And I want AEW. The wrestling business needs AEW to thrive, to continue the heights that it's climbing. WWE needs somebody to push them back into being competitive and not being complacent. The wrestling business is not good when there's one dominant brand. Every wrestler, old school wrestler that you talked to that was there when WCW sunk under has said the same exact thing. And I'm telling you, it's not good because they get complacent. They know they're the only business in town, so they don't have to book compelling television, and the wrestlers get lazy. But when somebody's on your heels and they're making you put forth the effort and making you do good every week, that's when you really see good wrestling. That's when you really see things come alive. And that's what I want to see. AEW pushed WWE first. WWE is pushed back. Now it's time for Tony Khan to push back again. Not just acquire this big talent and have these big hoopla showings when they first show up, but legit book good stories week in, week out, week in, week out. Compelling television. Stuff that people want to watch, people want to see for a whole show. Keep me invested. Get me invested. And then keep me invested. Both shows, both companies, WWE and AEW for that. Keep me invested. I think to do that personally, Tony Khan has to relinquish creative rights. I think that he needs to hire. I'm not saying hire a team like WWE. Please don't do that. I miss the days when it was Vince McMahon, Pat Patterson, Jim Cornette meeting and Bruce Pritchard meeting in Vince's backyard by the pool and booking 6 months of television. Some of the most compelling television out there came from that time. Some of the best wrestling content came from that era. I still go back and watch that content all the time. You check my YouTube. I think that a small group of individuals getting together and writing creative and planning out what they want to do is how you get compelling television week in and week out. Too big a staff and only one person. Both sides are very, very bad for wrestling. But in my opinion, I think that AEW has a long way to grow. I'm here for it. I'm here for the growth. I think that Tony Khan needs to hire a couple of individuals and let them take over creative completely, and he needs to take a step back from creative. I think that Edge's comments were good in the sense of rallying his locker room, rallying the AEW locker room. But I also think that Edge also spoke some BS while trying to call out CM Punk's BS. And I also think CM Punk spoke the truth, his truth at least, which I hate that terminology. We stop using his truth. It's either the truth or not the truth. One or the other. It can't be your truth. But at the same time, CM Punk had a lot to say. And it was a compelling interview. His thought process, his mindset going behind everything and the way he felt with things. But at the same time, hopefully CM Punk leaves that AEW stuff in the rearview mirror. It's over. It's done with. It happened. And now it's time for you to focus on rehabbing and getting better and getting back into the ring. That's all I got for you folks. Remember, two things. I want to be very, very clear. The opinions that you heard in this show right now were from me only. Not Fritos, not Tank, not Big Daddy C, not Coach. They were my opinions. If you disagree with them, I understand. I get it. Like I said, wrestling fans have a hard time agreeing on a lot of stuff. It is what it is. These are my opinions. I wanted to get on and share these thoughts with you guys from the